You're live.
Thank you, Sutton. Good evening, everyone. We are going to call to order the public hearing, and I will ask our city clerk to please take roll.
Councilor Bras Fragonera.
Here.
Councilor Chenoweth.
Here.
Councilor Kwanzo is absent. Councilor Guy.
Present.
Councilor Higgins.
Here.
Councilor Hinchman.
Here.
Councilor Lowther.
Here.
Councilor Parker.
Here.
Councilor Severino. Here. Councilor Vest.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Thank you. Okay, the first public hearing tonight is going to be an ordinance to amend and reenact the rates, rules, and regulations for furnishing water service at Elkins and vicinity, Randolph County, West Virginia, by increasing the rates charged thereof. Is there anyone here for comment? If none, I will close the public hearings, and we will go to the second one. Since we have a quorum, I will open the public hearing for a resolution to amend the 2015 City of Elkins Comprehensive Plan. Is there anyone here for comment? If none, we will close that hearing. And I will start now with the invocation.
You're going to adjourn. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
We close it. That's fine.
Yeah, I closed it. So, we're good?
Yep.
Okay, so now we will start with an invocation, which will be followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. So if you would please bow your heads and follow me in prayer. Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day and all the blessings you have given us. We thank you for providing us the opportunity to serve the citizens of Elkins. We ask that you guide us in our decision-making as we strive to make our community grow. We also ask that you watch over us and guide our country's leaders. In Jesus' name I pray, amen. I now call the Elkins Common Council meeting to order, and will ask our clerk to take roll again, please.
Councilor Bras Fragonera.
Here.
Councilor Chenoweth.
Here.
Councilor Kwanzo is absent. Councilor Guy.
Present.
Councilor Higgins.
Here.
Councilor Hinchman.
Here.
Councilor Lowther.
Here.
Councilor Parker.
Here.
Councilor Severino. Here. Councilor Vest.
Here.
And you have a quorum.
Okay, thank you. We do have a few adjustments, which we will address later on in the agenda. So we will move down to public comment. Is there anyone here for public comment tonight? If not, we will go down to the minutes portion, and I'm looking for a motion to accept the minutes from the meeting from September 1st, 2022, please.
So moved.
Okay, we have a motion. Any comments or discussion? If none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion carries. In your correspondence and notifications, you have your issued building permits. Are there any questions there?
Actually, so those were not included because of Mr. Eisner's
Oh,
absence.
okay, Mr. Eisner was out there. I apologize. Okay, we'll move down to our committee reports right now, and we will start with Councilor Chenoweth.
With respect to the Personnel Committee, we meet on Monday, the 19th. We're going to take up employee benefits and amendments to the Personnel Manual. So that meeting's Monday at noon. With respect to the Special Hiring Committee of an Operations Manager, I hate to report that we had a candidate, we made an offer, he accepted the offer, and then withdrew his name from the running. So we're starting that process all over again. We're posting the job again, and we have a meeting scheduled for October 10th to meet and discuss hopefully some additional candidates, good candidates that we hope to interview at a later date. So that's where that stands. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Councilor Guy.
No report.
Thank you. Councilor Hinchman.
Yes, Finance met last Monday on the 12th, and we went over funding for the streetscape design, which will be voted
Can you
on.
speak a little louder? I'm sorry.
I'm trying.
Good. Right into the mic.
Okay. We went over the funding for streetscape, which we'll be voting on tonight, and we also went over the consideration for a resolution to have the Finance Committee waive the downtown sound system fee. However, in the discussions, we decided to bring that back to full council to have that decision made. Then we went over,
Actually, Counselor, no, you said that you
we
did
didn't
not.
take any actions on
Correct,
it,
there was no
right?
action taken on that.
That's correct. We didn't take action on it. And then we didn't have enough information on the River Street asbestos abatement, so we moved that on to the next meeting.
Thank you, sir. Counselor Severino.
No report.
Thank you. Counselor Higgins.
I have no report.
Thank you. Counselor Lowther.
Parks will meet next Wednesday at 5 p.m. at the Phil Gaynor Center, and that's all I have.
Thank you, sir. Counselor Brosfer-Ganera.
Yes, Rules and Ordinance Committee had a wonderful meeting this week, actually.
Yesterday.
Is that just yesterday? My goodness. We had an excellent conversation regarding cats running at large, dogs barking, and other animal noises and nuisances. Basically, we will be really looking at a holistic approach to the whole animal situation. We had Tina Vile speaking to us, as well as Charlie Ramsey from the dog warden. And it became apparent that this is a bigger problem than we could really address in one meeting. However, we will be doing the easy part, which is dealing with barking dogs, and we'll have a much more short amended version to our current ordinance about that. So we look forward to getting that taken care of. The Planning Commission will be meeting, is that next Tuesday? I don't have
It's
my
the 27th, I
the
believe.
27th. In the evening, we haven't met for a while, so we'll just be discussing what needs to take place next and what the protocols are going to be for any concerns that we may receive or the city may receive. One of the things that we will be working on is sort of an FAQ sheet that will help the residents who are trying to plow through some of the bigger issues on the new ordinance. Speaking for Marilyn, Chair of the Tree Board, we had a great meeting as well, and we'll be beginning our Adopt a Tree program. Look for a press release about that in the next couple weeks. People throughout the city, we're trying to get as many people in different wards as possible. We'll be giving out free trees to be planted from our own nursery. So more details coming about that. And final note, the Cump House fall hours are open for visits every Sunday from 3 until 5. I look forward to seeing all you council members there on one day. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Counselor Vest.
The ad hoc committee did not get to meet last month, so the next meeting is Tuesday, September the 20th at 1 o'clock.
Thank you. Counselor Parker.
No report, sir.
Thank you, sir. Okay, moving on down to the staff reports. We will start with Chief Bennett, please.
Good evening. I don't have much to report tonight. Again, over the past several months, our call volume has been up in the high 500s, low 600s. That's a trend that we see continuing. We know next month it'll probably be double that with the festival and everything, but that's the way it is. As far as the festival goes, we've spent the last several weeks planning and preparing for that, and I like the spot we're in. We've had a lot more coordination with outside agencies to get ready for it this year. The only other thing that I have is in the past few days, we've completed our mutual aid agreement with 6 other entities within the region and have that filed with the circuit clerk now. So that's something that's going to come into play during the festivals. We're going to have the ability to have help from the outside come and help us with certain aspects of the parades and stuff. So that's a pretty big deal getting that done. It's something that should have been done years and years ago and never has been. So it's taken care of now. Other than that, unless anybody has any questions, I have nothing else.
Thank you, Chief. Ms. Himes?
Good evening. I just have a couple of things to report on this evening. As Councilor Hinchman said, the Streetscape Master Plan is on the agenda tonight for council to approve that proposal, and I did speak with Dave Cutlip for quite a few minutes today, and he did want me to pass on to all of the councilors and admin officers that Elkins Main Street is very happy to continue their help, and he's always available for questions. He said he's very happy in all of Elkins Main Street. They're very happy to see this moving forward, which I think we all are, because we've been working on this for quite some time. So if you have any questions about that, I'm happy to answer those. We did meet with West Virginia DOH today. I know I've reported in municipal properties about the Sycamore Street striping and the issues there with parking. We met with John Monk, the street department supervisors, and I, and we are going to, we're working on the petition to allow parking on that side of Sycamore, and they're going to move the line over for us. We're hopeful to start that after the festival. I know there will be no parking there anyway during the festival, so. Got word today that the leaf truck is ready to go on the road, and we see them falling. So Street Sweeper will continue to run with the leaf truck for a bit until it gets too wet. So we will keep Sutton informed to put out notices. And the elevator, it'll be down for a little bit. We're waiting on Otis to send a proposal. I think it's some electrical problems that they're looking for parts for. So hopefully we can get that back up and running soon. And we're working on schedules for the Force Festival cleanups, and we've gotten the barricade list, so the guys are working on that to make sure everything's good, and several event requests that they're making sure they have plenty of barricades and they're in good shape. And I just want to say all the departments seem to really be working well together, so it seems like things are smooth right now, so hopefully it works through festival that way too. So do you guys have any questions about anything? Operations?
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Miss Judy?
Good evening. Our office is working on preparing the third quarter B&Os, which will be going out the end of the month. We're continuing to work on the PSC and our annual reports and the financial statements. And we were made aware this week that our utility bill form stock is hard to get now. We're 4 months out to get it due to a paper shortage. So we're hopeful the order that we place will be here in January, and we've ordered a lot, so we hopefully do not run out. So that's affecting us probably the first time in our office we're seeing a shortage. But that's all I have, unless anybody has anything for me.
Thank you. Chief Himes?
Good evening. Just a couple things for you this evening. Annual call volume to date is at 453. That's still trending about 20% over last year. The guys are assisting Buchanan on a commercial building fire as we speak. So there's one crew out working right now. Last week we had MSA breathing apparatus in town. We've been certified as a repair center for our breathing apparatus as long as I can remember. I'm going to say back to the 90s at least. And what that does for us, it allows us to pretty much have zero downtime because we don't have to wait on a repair technician to come in if something breaks. We don't have to pay someone to come in and do annual flow testing. It looks like it costs a lot of money when we get guys certified, but in essence, it saves us thousands of dollars a year because we have the ability to repair our own stuff. So the guys went to school last week and We hosted it as a public course and had 5 firefighters from Clarksburg came in and also got certified on the new model. And this week, everything got flowed and tested. So other than that, business as usual. Anybody have any questions?
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Ms. Sutton, sorry.
Just a few things to mention this evening. The Police Civil Service Commission met and made some recommendations that you'll see on the agenda this evening. Also discussed testing in the future and talking with the chief a lot about how we're going to change our recruitment efforts moving forward. So he's been working with Sutton and others on that. There is a group in town, if you haven't heard, it was in the newspaper not too long ago, Leadership Randolph, which is modeled after Leadership West Virginia, if you're familiar with that organization. So Leadership Randolph, and we're not the only county that does this, but applicants, individuals in the county make application to be accepted into the program. They're reviewed. This first class has 12 participants. So over the period of August through June of next year, they'll attend, I believe it's a total of 9 sessions, and each session is dedicated to a particular area. So far, they've attended one on tourism. Others include, there'll be a city and county government session. There'll be one about healthcare, one about housing, all these different areas. And so they'll be able to learn about these areas and also develop leadership skills. Hopefully they can carry through and help our county move forward. There is, through the mayor's participation in the, remind me what it was called, Champions League? Champions Institute, excuse me. We have Smart Growth America will be coming to Elkins in October. There'll be some stakeholder small group sessions. They'll do a presentation, and then there'll be a longer workshop the following day. We're also going to pair that with the strategic planning so that we're not duplicating efforts. So you'll see some of those will overlap. So that'll be happening. I would mark your calendars now for the October the 24th, at least in the evening. There may be some daytime activities as well. The 25th will be most of that day from about 9 to 3. And then November the 1st will also be a longer day, probably about 9 to 3. And you'll start to see some emails come out about that.
I'm sorry, I missed what this was about. What's the focus of this?
Smart Growth America, they're going to come in, and what they do is kind of an assessment of economic viability, economic impact. We've provided them with a lot of data already. Yeah, it's technical assistance. And these groups will be meant to sort of understand where people's intentions are as far as development and give some advice too. So we had a little session, and they gave us a preview of what they would talk about. They identify what they call hotspots, economic hotspots, and they talk about property values and where they see development and where they recommend development occur just based on their experience. And they've done this for a number of communities throughout the U.S.
This goes back to the project that I had mentioned a couple months ago through the Champions Institute. It's champions, it's leaders from across the nation, and my project actually is one of the 5 that was selected for technical assistance, and it's basically a bridge connecting the north and the south, which feeds into Jessica's riverfront property or riverfront development project that we're working on. So with them selecting that project, they agreed to come here and provide technical assistance for us, free of charge. And that's the right price tag, in my opinion. So,
you will start to see some information coming out very shortly about Civic Clerk, which is the agenda platform that we've invested some ARPA funds into. So you're going to see, I'm going to send out an instructional video, and then you'll also receive a link that you'll sign up for that. I think you're really going to like it. It's not going to be that different from getting a PDF email like you do now, and there'll actually be some tools in there that'll make it easier for you to look at the information and filter through. Just wanted to mention that our town, because I'm bringing this up tonight because we're already getting calls about Halloween, our town, in coordination with the First United Methodist Church and with some assistance from the fire department, is going to host an event on October the 29th that includes a trunk or treat, hay rides, music, demonstrations, and interactive activities. That is going to replace the traditional downtown business trick-or-treat. That's not going to happen this year. And then, of course, the residential trick-or-treat is Halloween night, October 31st, from 6:30 to 8. And last thing is just that some residents, if you happen to hear, that are receiving notices from the gas company. They did an assessment, and using some mapping tools that they had access to identify gas meters that they thought were within the municipal boundaries, and not being, the local tax was not being applied appropriately, so they sent out letters to these residents. I've been contacted by a few already. The ones that I've spoken to are not inside the city limits, and so I've just drafted a letter. They send that back to the gas company. I actually spoke with a gentleman from the gas company the other day, and he sent me his spreadsheet of all the names so that I can go through them and say yes or no, they're in or out. And then these residents, whether they're inside or outside, won't have to send a letter back to the gas company. So we'll try to just take care of that. But it was an effort by them to try to clean up their records and make sure they were capturing all the local tax. It's not a new tax. It's not an increase in tax. The tax has already existed. It's just whether it was being applied appropriately or not. And that's all I
And the
have.
city did not impose that tax. Those are the calls that I'm getting. What's the city doing with this extra money? I'm like, it's not extra money, so we didn't have anything to do with that.
That's all I have, unless anybody has any questions.
Thank you. Ms. Roberts?
Thank you, Mayor. Just a couple things. The last step in the new zoning ordinance, next week I'll be filing a copy of the final ordinance that's been signed and put into effect at the county clerk's office. That's one of the other things you have to do with regard to that. So that'll be getting done next week. And other than that, there are a lot of other things percolating, but not to a point where I have anything definitive to share with you, but I think those things will be happening here in the near future. Oh, there is one thing. If you'll recall, you granted the request of the Woodlands to have an easement to place their new generator and transformer in the Seneca Mall parking lot because they can't place it in the building for obvious reasons. And I have that document prepared. It's been approved by them, have the plat to go with it, so that'll be getting signed by the mayor, hopefully here in the next few days, and recorded also. Anybody have any questions? Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, moving on down to the approval of the vendor invoice payments.
So moved.
I have a motion on the floor. Any comments or discussion? If none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. Motion carries. Okay, under new business, ordinance 302, an ordinance to amend and reenact the rates, rules, and regulations for furnishing water service at Elkins and vicinity, Randolph County, West Virginia, by increasing the rates charged therefore. This is the second and final reading. I'm looking for a motion to accept, please.
So moved.
Okay, we have a motion. Any comments or discussion?
It
Yep.
just might be a good time for someone to explain, I guess, to the citizens that are here and watching on social media, and if the Intermountain's writing an article as to, because I've received this criticism or question as to why we're raising the water rates as opposed to just dipping into the general fund. So it might just be a good time to explain why we can't do that. Maybe Ms. Roberts?
Certainly.
Use your microphone, please.
Excuse me.
Thank you.
Certainly, as most folks here in this room know, the water system has its own enterprise fund, just as well as the wastewater system does. And the revenues that are generated with regard to the direct sale and the resale of the water produced by the city's water plant, all of those funds are in that enterprise fund. You cannot use general revenues to support that, and you can't take the funds out of the enterprise fund for other purposes. So it has to operate on its own. And as you know, we have two gentlemen here tonight that have assisted the city with regard to deciding what the rate should be based on the information. We have Mr. Michael Griffith, who did the financial breakdown of what the system needs and what it needs to continue to operate. And then we have Mr. Rodecker, who presents and does the work with regard to the Public Service Commission and the rate increase with regard to that. If this ordinance is passed this evening, it will become effective immediately because it is an emergency rate increase that we're talking about here. And it will be coinciding with the next billing cycle that Ms. Judy probably could speak to better than I could about that. We do have Mr. Rodecker and Mr. Griffith here tonight. If there's anything you would like to ask of them or any additional information that they could add to this, I'm sure they'd be more than willing to be here and to do that.
Okay, yeah, another criticism that I've received, or maybe a criticism too strong a word.
Counselor, could you speak into your microphone a little more? Thank you.
I thought that I was. But another question, I guess, that I've received is, why not cut costs as opposed to raise rates? I don't know if that'd be a question for Wes or, just, I know the answer, but just a clarifying question for the citizens so they know.
Michael Griffith, I'm CPA. I've represented Elkins for quite a while on utility matters. And that question, that a lot of times that's one of the things that's said, but you have a commitment to provide service. The city has a commitment to provide service. And to be honest with you, I don't see a place where in what was spent in the prior year that I did an extensive review and the things that are planned, I don't see anywhere in those costs where you could make a very material decrease or change that would alter the rate recommendation and still be able to keep people in service. For example, let's say we didn't want to pay the power bill, which is a huge cost. Well, if you don't pay the power bill, you don't pump water, people don't have service. That's an extreme, that's maybe not a fair analysis, but I wanted to make a distinction there. Same thing, you have to have employees that operate the plant, you have to have employees that go out and fix leaks, and all the things that utilities do is cost intensive. And one of the things that I'd talk to that kind of goes along with that is that when I talked to the water board and we presented, I think everyone in your city feels the inflationary impacts, when they go to buy gas, go to the grocery store, all the things that you see. Well, what I've seen, and we're seeing nationally, is on the utility side, you amplify that about 5 times, and that's what's affecting utilities. And my theory on that is, I'm not an economist, but my theory on that is all the things that utilities do, like your water system. Of course, everyone in the United States does similar things, same type of pipe, or generally the same type of pipe, the materials, and there's so much need for that. And the infrastructure bill pumped in, I don't know how many $1 billion into that. So there's a lot more continuing activity, continuing demand, which keeps the price and the supply low and the price high. And there's really nothing that I could tell you that you could do to make a reduction in those things and still keep your people in service that they expect and you're required to do. But that would be my response.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Griffith, may I ask just one question?
Sure.
We were speaking earlier, and I know you and Mr. Rodecker many times worked together on such as you've done for the city. And I think you mentioned that the two of you were working on 4 or 5 projects similar to this. Is that correct?
Correct, right now.
And then you told me beyond that work, how many projects were you working on where there was a need for a rate increase?
We have approximately 45 cases right now for water and sewer rates for municipalities, counties, private entities in West Virginia facing the same things that I've recommended here at varying degrees. And it's kind of overwhelming right now for us. I know the PSC staff that has to deal with it on the regulatory side, I mean, there's not enough of them to handle all West Virginia. It's really made a bog down in the process. But we have about 45, and about half of those involve multi-million-dollar current construction projects. And one of the problems we're running into there is if I started working on a project, for example, for Elkins 2 years ago, and it was a $10 million project, I can tell you now when we would open the envelopes, it would be 20 or more, or 30. Lewisburg, who is not my client, I know they were talked about at your municipal league.
Correct.
They had a project that went from 18 to 32 to 63 million for a water plant. And, I mean, it's just staggering, and they had to do it. I mean, they didn't have a choice, or people were gonna continue to get water. They were already on rations, and they couldn't hook up new customers. It's just, it's a unfortunate nature of where we are in the utility business right now.
Thank you, sir.
I had a question. I'm not sure if you would be able to answer it, but listening to different radio stations, I have heard of different states offering voucher, some sort of assistance to folks who are having difficulty paying their utility bills. I know there's like a low-income household water assistance program, grants that are helping folks with that. Is there anybody in West Virginia? It seems like even though that we have to utilize certain funds to support our own utilities, there should be some sort of program out there to help people who are on a fixed income and they're having difficulty. I know there's vouchers for heating, but are you aware of any sort of programs that would help people with their water bills?
Not along the lines that you're talking about. What you see and what you also see in West Virginia with some of those discounts and help programs, a lot of those are tied to private utilities, and the legislature or the government has issued tax incentives for them they'll cut their tax by X, and they dole it out that way. That's what I commonly see. There are some programs that I know some other utilities participate in where they'll work with a third party, I don't know if it's usually a nonprofit or a religious organization where they'll try to help people in need, but it doesn't have a specific tie to the cities. As far as I know the city will accept and work with that third party if the individual is having troubles, goes through the party and follows all their rules. They'll work with them with deferred payment agreements and allow the third party to make partial payments on their behalf to restore service, some of those things. But I'm not aware of anything that you as a city can do with city funds that would help along those things other than just cooperate with any agency that's available.
Mayor, may I follow up with that, please?
Absolutely.
For all of the counselors, we do provide information to like Catholic Charities, DHHR, the Salvation Army, Helping Hands, on a regular basis. One of the problems that we see with some people who are behind is they don't want to apply. There's nothing that we can do. Mountaineer rental assistance, we have been getting, or customers have been getting help there, but the problem with that is that help may come to us 15 to 30 days after the due date. So then we're really behind again. I mean, there's programs out there people need to want to help themselves. And at times, they may not be allowed any more assistance if they've used it a lot. So there's a lot of factors that go into that. Plus, if we set them up a payment plan, they're required to make their current bill plus pay towards their previous bill, and if they don't do that, then they default on that. And then they're not allowed another payment plan until they catch up.
That's really good information to know, because those are some of the concerns that I have been hearing, mostly about people being on a fixed income. How am I going to pay this extra $30 or whatever a month? So if that information can be out there, I think that would be excellent to share with folks. Thank you.
Thank you.
Another negative talking point that I've seen is, and this is going to be for Wes, there's a lot of after-hours work that goes on, and the water department can't always predict when a pipe's going to burst or when we're going to have a water leak. But Wes, could you explain why the water department has to wait until after business hours to do a lot of the work that you guys do?
Sure, a lot of times, we have to shut down such a wide area. We try to do it when it's the least impactful to the community, and a lot of times, these areas are around schools and businesses that are open through the day, and we simply can't shut those businesses down, or schools. It's detrimental to the schools especially. So a lot of times we end up having to work after the normal business hours to accomplish that. And a lot of times these leaks pop up during our regular day. We can't really plan for these things. We may be 3 o'clock ready to go home and we get a call from 911, hey, there's a leak out on Wilson Hill or something, you know. Go out there and we've got a 12-inch line blowed. And of course that's an all-nighter. We really can't predict these things. We try our best to plan this stuff. If we have a little leak or something that we know is there, we try to plan that during business hours, but there's a lot of times we can't do it.
Well, if I could weigh in for a second, Wes. Wes and I have had conversations that they know that they're going to have to shut down after hours. They adjust their schedules so they're not working overtime, as much overtime now too. So we have taken measures there to try to reduce our overtime cost.
Yes, that's
Thank you.
correct.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we do have a motion on the floor. Any other? Yes.
Mayor, thank you for allowing me to give some justification for my appearing here today.
Absolutely.
I came all the way from Charleston, and I hate to make Michael drive me up here and not say something. A couple of things. First, I wanted to repeat a little bit about what Michael said in regard to the question with regard to low-income assistance, and certainly I think he fully stated it, but I think it is a legislative issue that should be taken up with the legislature. There is a low-income energy assistance program through DHHR, which is for, I believe, electric and gas. I'm not sure that water and sewer are able to be applied for funds for that or not, but at least somebody should look into that. That hasn't been something I've been asked to do previously. And then all of the justifications that Michael gave with regard to the request as to why we're here having this increase and why expenses couldn't be reduced or what have you. And there are certain things where there are increases that have been imposed by the legislature itself upon the city, which is a major part of the rate increase in this instance, as well as all of the other entities that we serve in water and sewer matters. And that's the Cash Working Capital Reserve Fund. It was initiated by Senate Bill 234, which was a 2015 act of the legislature, which amended a lot of the provisions relating to how rates are made, the jurisdiction of the Public Service Commission, and other things like that, but also included a mandatory requirement that the water and sewer utilities set aside in this fund 1/8 of their operation and maintenance expenses. And that's a real burden, and it's that amount every year. It's not just one time, it's that amount every year. And while it's a real burden, I also want you to know that it's as a result, the implementation or the enactment of this was resulting from the pleas of municipalities and public service districts before the legislature, because when the PSC was making rates, the rates were old by the time they went into effect, and there wasn't enough money for the municipalities and the PSDs to actually be able to have a surplus. And so there were no funds to call on for major issues, such as the replacement of water filters that we're faced with here in this instance, and having money available. So this was a way to create a source of funds for the municipalities and public service districts of the state. And yes, it is onerous, but it's something that corporations do. Some families, if they're fortunate enough to be able to have some money to set aside, will try to set aside things at home for the rainy day. And it's a rainy day fund, if you will. So I just wanted to, I know that there may be some people listening in, or you can all tell your constituents that this is the kind of thing that gives rise to this. And then, of course, everybody is facing the increases of, as a result of COVID, the effect of COVID, and then inflationary issues that Michael mentioned. Then I'd like to move to another item, which, and I've talked with Jerry, Ms. Roberts, and also Councilman Chenoweth, and that has to do with an issue that my assistant brought to my attention this morning, and that is in the ordinance. If you have it in front of you, it's easy to explain. The ordinance establishes a two-step increase, one to go into effect immediately, and the second is to take effect next June. And there are rates in there, and then there are certain fees that are provided for. And in step one, there is a new fee called an after-hours service fee. And a service fee of $25 will be charged for each separate service call after regular working hours and holidays. So that's a new fee. Unfortunately, that was not carried over to step two. And it would appear before the shut-off fee of $25 and the tap fee. But that provision should be carried over unless there's some reason that somebody within the city hadn't brought to my attention that they didn't intend it to be included. And so I suggest that there be an amendment to that, and that amendment can take place tonight. There's a provision in the West Virginia Code in section 811.4, which is a municipal corporations law relating to the passage of ordinances, and it does provide that, it provides in the negative basically, that you can't amend an ordinance at the same time that it's being adopted, at the same meeting it's being adopted, unless it's not material. And this is not a material issue. It's really an omission that doesn't have a great financial impact at all. And in my opinion, it's an insubstantial de minimis change.
Thank you for that, sir. We'll have to do that after we pass the motion that's currently on the floor. But then we,
You would amend it before you
okay,
take a vote.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
One of the reasons I jumped on.
Okay.
Appreciate that, Mr. Rodecker.
Well, actually, gentlemen, first off, I want to thank you both for driving up from Charleston and for your support during this initiative. I also want to thank the water board members that took on this task. They've been in existence since last May, so this has been a heavy lift for them. It wasn't an easy decision. No one likes the decision we had to make. Unfortunately, it's where we are right now. And as you've heard from these gentlemen, communities across the state are facing the same issues that we're facing. And also, thank you to this council for asking some very difficult questions and then also educating your community. So thank you for that. So then we're looking for an amendment then for this motion.
Based on Mr. Rodecker's opinion, I'll make a motion to amend the ordinance to amend step 2 of the ordinance to include the after-hours service fee, which is included in step 1, using the same language.
You have to take a vote on the amendment.
Okay. First, we will take a vote on the amendment first. So all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion carries. Now for the amendment, correct?
Now you're back to the
The
original.
original motion.
original
Okay,
motion
now for
as
the original
amended.
motion as amended. There we go. I always get confused on those. I apologize. Okay, now for the original motion, I think that was made by Mike and Rob simultaneously over there. So all those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. Motion carries. Thank you. Ordinance 303, an ordinance of the Common Council of the City of Elkins, West Virginia, to vacate, abandon, and close a portion of that certain public right-of-way known as Gorman Avenue between Martin Street and Reed Street, adjacent to Davis Medical Center. This is also the second and final reading. I'm looking for a motion to accept, please.
So moved.
We have a motion. Any comments or discussion? If none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. Motion carries. C, ordinance 304, an ordinance for the Common Council of the City of Elkins, West Virginia, to establish a municipal court administrative fee by amending Chapter 37 Municipal Court by adding Section 37.13 administrative fee pursuant to its status as a home rule city, also the second and final reading. I'm looking for a motion to accept, please.
So moved.
We have a motion. Any comments or discussion? If none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. Motion carries. Ordinance 305, an ordinance of the Common Council of the City of Elkins, West Virginia, to amend Elkins City Code, Section 37.10, municipal court technology and maintenance fee pursuant to its status as a home rule city. This is also the second and final reading. I'm looking for a motion to accept, please.
So moved.
We have a motion. Any comments or discussion? If none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. Motion carries. Ordinance 306, an ordinance of the Common Council of the City of Elkins, West Virginia, amending City Code, Chapter 92, Fire Prevention by adding Section 92.037C, application for original appointment and the rules and regulations of the Firemen's Civil Service Commission, Section 4.04, application for the original appointments pursuant to its status as a home rule, also the second and final reading. I'm looking for a motion to accept, please.
So moved.
Okay, we have a motion. Any comments or discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. Motion carries, and I will be happy not to read those five again. So, Resolution 1563, a resolution amending the 2015 City of Elkins Comprehensive Plan. I'm looking for a motion to accept, please.
So moved.
We have a motion. Any comments or discussion?
A little explanation on that.
If you'll recall, the Planning Commission had a public hearing with regard to two minor changes that needed to be made in the comprehensive plan that's in place in order to be in sync with the new zoning ordinance. And they're very minor changes. That's what this is about. You're going to be working on a new comprehensive plan here before you know it, but these still needed to be made in order to basically be in line with the new zoning ordinance. So you have to adopt a resolution that allows those changes in the comprehensive plan to be made.
Thank you.
Also, if I could make a comment, Mayor. There was a typographical error noted the other day, was brought to our attention. On the first page of the amendment to the policy, second section says modify Elkins comprehensive plan. It says 2014 edition, which is incorrect. It should read 2015. Again, it's not a substantive change, so I think an amendment can just be made and it can be adopted as amended. But do you need there will have to be a motion.
A motion to amend, please.
I make the motion to amend.
Okay, we have a motion to amend. So voting on the amendment first. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. Motion carries. The original motion for Resolution 1563. Any comments or discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. Motion carries. Resolution 1564, approving completion of probation and confirming compensation level for D. Sitka. I'm looking for a motion to accept, please.
So moved.
We have a motion. Any comments or discussion? If none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. Motion carries. Resolution 1565, accepting conditions and terms of the Rite Aid West Virginia statewide settlement agreement and authorizing the execution of the election and release form provided by the West Virginia Attorney General. I'm looking for a motion to accept, please.
So moved.
And Ms. Roberts, would you like to explain this a little bit further, please?
Certainly. If you'll recall, back in May, I believe it was, the city received a letter similar to the one that was received recently from the West Virginia Attorney General's office. The state has brought various lawsuits with regard to the opioid crisis and have pursued distributors, manufacturers, different different people in the chain, supply chain with regard to the drugs. The one you looked at and approved back in, I believe it was May, had to do with what is called the endo settlement. The Attorney General reached a settlement agreement with that manufacturer. And part of that was you accepted the settlement because this city was a non-litigating city. We were not in any of the lawsuits that were out there that some counties and cities had brought, similar to the one that the state brought. So you could participate in this by becoming a participating non-litigating partner. And it's available to cities and counties. This is very similar to the one that you approved back in May. However, this is with the Rite Aid Company. It's a $30 million settlement, and it will go into this fund that's being set up to handle all of these settlements, and all of the distribution will be done through this particular MOU that you agreed to the last time. I see, as I said in the memo I sent to everyone, I see no downside in agreeing to participate. If you pass this resolution, it will authorize Mayor Marco to sign off on this election and release form, which basically says the city's never going to go after Rite Aid for the same sort of litigation that was involved in the suit that the Attorney General brought. And then you'll be able to participate in the funds that will come to local governments. So it's my recommendation that you do what you did previously with regard to participating in the settlement with Rite Aid.
Do we have any idea what those funds would be for the city of Elkins?
Well, the way it's structured right now, I believe it's 24.5% of all of these settlements will go to local governments. So it's going to actually depend on who all participates, the exact amount. So to tell you today, I don't think I could do that. However, at this point, you have zero participation. And if you agree to pass this resolution and have the mayor sign off on this, you're going to have some participation. We just don't know exactly the amount right now.
Thank you. Any other comments or discussion? If none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. Motion carries. Resolution 1566, accepting conditions of agreement with GAI Consultants Incorporated for Elkins Streetscape Master Plan and authorizing the execution of agreement. I'm looking for a motion to accept, please.
So moved.
We have a motion. Any comments or discussion?
I think you guys have been talking about this for a long time, but since I'm fairly new, I don't know that much about what the plan goals are. I've read that information, but would like a little bit more explanation about what this is going to accomplish.
Sure, I can speak to that if
Absolutely.
you like. So several years ago, I believe it may have been in 2018, there were discussions prior to that, but Elkins Main Street prepared what they called a streetscape vision document. And it had ideas, it had some cost estimates in there about how the city could approach achieving a more cohesive downtown, set some standards, sort of decide who was going to be responsible for what. But it wasn't the type of plan, it was just a vision. It wasn't a plan that then could be taken and executed in any way. And it was actually included in that vision document that their recommended next step would be to have a master plan like the one we're pursuing now. So after many years of talking about it, several months ago, council approved sort of moving forward. We put out an RFQ, solicited several firms, and then chose GII, which, by the way, is the same firm who completed the riverfront development, and they did an excellent job with that, and I think they'll be able to tie everything in really nicely. So the ultimate goal of this master plan would be to have this document that then could be, and when they present it, they would present it in phases, similar to the same way they did with the riverfront document, so you could look at it, break it down, look at funding options, and then decide how you wanted to execute it from there.
I know with the Riverside project, it seemed like they did that in pretty good time. And I noticed that in the document that you shared with us, that it just had a line that said the timeline will be determined. So I'm hoping that they will be able to work as quickly as they did with the Riverside project. And I know, one of my concerns is that we have several things that have been coming up over and over and over again regarding traffic safety, pedestrian safety, and things I noticed, I think with public safety, you all just talked about the need for either stop signs or something downtown. And I did see that a traffic study was not part of this study. And I just don't want to see some of these things that have been continuously brought up be delayed even more years by having to go through this process. You know, just putting up some stop signs on Fourth and Kearns. I don't want to be kicking the can down saying, let's just wait for this whole project to get underway, to do some things that need to be done right away. So that's my hope.
Could I just respond?
Yeah.
We've had discussions with GAI. I think their timeline is going to be pretty similar to the riverfront
Great.
development. We're talking about, potentially 90, I think at the most 120, just given the holidays in between there.
Right.
But I wouldn't imagine it would go any longer than that. And we've had discussions with them about how to approach the traffic issue and pedestrian safety. And they will be including some of that. Now, they're not going to go out and do a full-blown traffic study where they're counting cars and, identifying heavy traffic. They'll rely on information that's already available and accessible to them, probably through the DOT. But they do plan to look at those areas, and they know the importance of that to the city and to things that we've been talking about in committees and council. So it's not something that I see as being kicked down the road.
Oh, good.
They will also, although it's not included in here, if they get to a point, early on in their planning where they think that it's absolutely necessary to be able to execute that, they're going to come back to us and tell us that. Now, that would be a separate contract, whether it was with them or a different organization, but we've talked a lot about that issue in particular with them, so they're very aware of it.
Good. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Any other comments or discussion? Okay, we do have a motion on the floor. So all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion carries. Okay, for Resolution 1567, I have some officers that have been waiting patiently, and I know that's not always their strong suit, is to be patient, but I appreciate you taking time to listen tonight, guys. It's approving and promotion of and establishing a new compensation level for members of the Elkins Police Department, and Jessica has some information on this.
I do. I just want to make everyone aware that you've been provided an updated copy of that resolution because there were a couple of errors in it. So what you're voting on is that corrected version.
So with that said, I'm looking for a motion to approve, please.
So moved.
We have a motion. Any comments or discussion? If none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion carries. And we will take a pause. Congratulations, Brandon. Okay, and once again, thank you guys for your patience. Okay, moving down to K, a request by Big Timber Brewing for ABCA special licensure. I'm looking for a motion to accept, please.
So moved.
We have a motion. Any comments or discussion? If none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion carries. Okay, L, request by Valid Boxing LLC for ABCA special licensure. I'm looking for a motion to accept, please.
So moved.
We have a motion. Any comments or discussion? If none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion carries. And down to M, October 6, 2022 council meeting.
So this.
Happy Forest Festival, right?
Yeah, this used to come up every year, and you haven't had to talk about it for the past few years because we haven't had the Forest Festival. But in preparation, there have been years where that meeting has been canceled because of the ongoing Forest Festival, and other years where you've held it. So that's the question posed to council as to whether or not you want to have that meeting that evening. Right now, I'm not aware, you won't have any second readings of ordinances. You took care of those this evening. I don't know of any business right now that is time sensitive, but that doesn't mean that something wouldn't come up. But just keep in mind, if you do choose to cancel that meeting and something arises, then we'll be required to have a special meeting, which is sometimes difficult, but
Correct.
yeah. It's whatever you all choose to do. If you are canceling the meeting, for the record, there should be a motion to cancel and vote.
I would entertain a motion to either have the meeting or to cancel the meeting.
I'll make a motion to cancel the first meeting on October 6th.
Okay, we have a motion. Any comments or discussion?
Yes. Make sure you get out there and enjoy the festivities, eat some funnel cake, candied apples, especially if we're not going to be here.
It's our duty.
Thank you. Okay, any other comments? If none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion carries. Okay, finally down to mayor's comments. I'll try to make this brief. I will say that last weekend I felt like I was on a roller coaster. I got to start out Saturday with my second year in a row, actually, of the ringing a bell for Rosie's, the Rosie the Riveters. It's a very unique ceremony that they have to recognize the Rosie the Riveters from our area. And we had three new inductees this year, so I got to spend time with their families and hear their stories about what their mothers did during this wartime and how they stepped up and really did answer the bell, so that was a very special moment for me. Unfortunately, after that, I drove to Morgantown where I had high expectations of a victory, and that did not take place, so that was the downside of the roller coaster. But the next morning, I actually got to join our local National Guard unit for a 9/11 Memorial ruck march. I almost said it today. So we did the 4.3-mile march through Elkins. They're going to try to advertise it next year for other people that want to join, so I would highly encourage that. As you know, with my previous job, I was deployed to New York after 9/11, so that was a very special moment for me, a very special time. So definitely, like I said, a roller coaster weekend, but enjoyable at the end. We had a meeting last night with the Forest Festival crew, and I think we're 15 days away from kicking it off, it looks like, or something like that. Very excited about it. So it looks like we are going to hold the 84th Mountain State Forest Festival. So knock on wood, we're going to hope it really happens this time. I think Robbie Morris is really looking forward to passing that baton at this time. So the city has received several requests, as has been mentioned previously. I know Chief has been working with a lot of the local guys. Actually, both chiefs have been working hard to set up their plans. Gamble Amusement did provide a strip map so that we're making sure that they're not blocking the alleyways. They did get their business license, so everything's good to go there. And because I'm one of these people, I'm going to announce this tonight. You have 101 days till Christmas. So, hey, thank you guys for everything. Have a good night.
Need a motion to adjourn?
Oh, I need a motion to adjourn, please. I'm out.